Hello, my name's John Thorne from Silverstone Shooting Centre and welcome to part 2 in our short series on practical mini rifle and the safety course you need to have for taking up the sport. Now in part 1 we went through the details of the safety course and what you do in terms of positional shooting, fingers off trigger, muzzle angle, etc. In part 2 what we're trying to do now is give you an idea of what to expect at your first competition. It's always a bit nerve-wracking to go to competition, have no idea what to expect. So the idea of this is just to go through little bits of here and what you're going to see in terms of turning up for your first comp. So first things first, I'm in our car park. First you get to the range. Okay, now don't get there too early. I always try to point out to people that if you get there at 8 o'clock, I guarantee my staff have got to be here an hour before. So we do have diet lives as well. Try and get there reasonably on time accepted. And then at that point in time, the best thing to do is to go and find out where you need to go. In our case it's reception, but there will be a clubhouse or some kind of area where you need to go and register and sign on for shooting. That's the first thing you do, is make sure they know you're there, make sure you signed in various disclaimers or confirmed who you are and they're aware of that you're being there, etc. Okay. Second thing to consider is, first of all, is generally speaking, I have never seen a club that doesn't run the rule of all guns must stay in bags until going to the firing ranges or the firing point. So, simple thing to do, in my experience, is keep your kit in the car until you know where you're going, or if you know where you're going, take it all, keep it in the bag, and then keep it with you at all times. Okay, so get there on time, sign on, and then keep your stuff in the bag. Keeps you nice and sensible, and you'll know where your bits and stuff are. Okay, one thing to consider there, I have seen a particular range lost its club license for a while because people got their guns out in the car park. Even though the car park was secure and there was no one there, it was deemed as being an unsafe use and therefore they lost their license for a short period. They got it back, fortunately. So bear that in mind. You're turning up to someone else's club, you start waving guns around, there can be a lot bigger difference just on you and them. It could be the as well. Okay, guns in bags, go and register. All right? Okay, so you kept your gun in your bag, you've registered, they know you're here, you're called through to your respective squads and where you're going to go, you're at the first range you're going to attend. Okay, most competitions are multiple ranges, different courses of fire, so it could be different size here. So I'm in our 50-metre indoor range here right now. Now, a couple of things to consider. Obviously, we're a muzzle down club, so we have gun racks that are suitable for the guns to be carried muzzle down. There may be no gun racks at all, in which case leave your gun in the bag. Or the other gun racks with muzzles up, they're fairly obvious, they should be signed, and normally they will say breech flags must be used. Now, you may not get its level of signage at some clubs, obviously we're a bit more detailed here being a commercial range as well. But it's something to consider to know, first of all, muzzle up, muzzle down, first thing you ask you get to a range, and secondly, making sure the guns either stays in the bag or they can go onto racks. We're quite happy to being in racks with the breech in, or muzzle flag in, or keep them in your bag. Okay. The downside of keeping your bag is it takes more time going to and from the ranges, but it'd be down to the range's choice how they want to police the range for the competition. The other thing to consider is safe areas. Now, again, we have one here. Ours are very, very clearly signed with a muzzle direction clearly stated and a specific thing saying no ammunition. Now, every range should have some kind of designated safe or safety area, okay? This is the only area on the range you are able to fiddle with your gun, okay? So you can't get your gun in your bag and start messing around with a scope, changing batteries and messing around with the thing, etc. You really can't. I've seen people disqualified at competitions for doing that in the car parks out in the ranges. The safe area is the only place you're allowed to faff around with your gun. And you can frankly disassemble it if you want. You can rebuild things. I've seen people change entire actions in safe areas because that's what area is for. Now, each of our ranges have their own safe area. There may be one safe area for the whole range. You don't know, but find out where it is because that's the place you need to unbag your gun, see if it's all okay, make sure the breech flag is then put it in a rack accordingly. Now, a crucial thing to consider about safe areas, as it says on the sign there, absolutely no ammunition. Okay? If you have ammunition in your hand when you're at the safe area, you'll be disqualified. Okay, I can guarantee it, and I've seen it. Generally speaking, a magazine kept in your belt, technically, isn't in the safe area because it's on your belt and not touching it. But if you go to the safe area with your magazine in your belt and your magazine falls on the floor, and you go and pick it up, you're suddenly carrying a loaded magazine in a safe area and you're going home. So generally after I finish my course of fire and shooting, I empty all my gun belt, put it in my bag, so if I do go to a safe area, I'm not going to be in a position of walking around carrying a loaded magazine. Okay, so safe areas are your friends, but also the place you can get yourself in trouble. Main thing being no ammunition and keep your rifle pointed in the direction it stays. In this case, it's going towards a bund. It may have other directions. There are some ranges that have a whole room designated as a safe area, or there may just be a patch of grass in the corner that's considered. But that's the only place you can fiddle with your gun, and bear that in mind. So other than that, it's in a gun rack, being carried as it should be, muzzle up or muzzle down, or in a bag. Those are only three places you can have your gun out. All right? Okay, next thing you're going to get is you're going to start to meet your range officers and start having your range briefs. So what will happen, you've got to the range, you're all sort of ready to go. The range officer will call you forward for a range brief for everybody. Okay, and here what they're going to do is go through the course of fire. Okay, they will detail the start position in terms of where you're standing, trail, racing held, etc. The condition of the gun, loaded, option 1, 2 or 3, and also they explain the course of fire. Now, some range officers are quite open and detailed, some are a bit more restrictive. So generally speaking, what they say is they'll tell you the number of targets you've got to shoot, any no shoots, and also the number of rounds you'll need. So if there are 10 paper targets, they will say there are 10 paper targets. By definition, that's a minimum round count of 20 rounds. Okay, and they'll mix it up. Now, good R range officer, in all honesty, will go around and point the targets out, especially in a course of fire where it's a bit mixed, but it's not compulsory. They can say, you've got 10 targets, 20 rounds, and they normally give you between 2 and 3 minutes to wander around. Now, generally, this is your time to wander around the range and see. Okay, have a look at the targets, see where they are. Are there any different angles? Try and run through the stages. And your best thing to do as a new shooter coming to first competition is watch what other shooters do. Okay, some of them are very animated and they go through there like some kind of Call of Duty wannabes. Some are just very straightforward. Go, you know what? I can see him, off I go. I won't say which is the best way, but bottom line, the more you can practice in your mind where you're going to run and where you're going to shoot, the better. So also this is the time to wander around and see what course, how you want to run it. Do you want to shoot the 2 targets on the left first or 2 targets to the right first? What do you want to do? It's only a few minutes, so you have a couple of times to run through. It's not very long to go through it all. And a complicated stage, they give you a bit longer, but it's your time to wander around the place, etc. A couple of things you can't do. You can't have anything in your hands. Even something like a pen can be considered an aiming aid. So don't walk around with a microphone or even a chocolate bar pointing at targets, because arguably speaking, you could be disqualified for using a pointing aid. Second thing is, don't touch any targets, okay? Shouldn't really need to go anywhere near a metre of them if you can. The bottom line, if you touch a target, again, you could be given a procedural in terms of interfering with the course of fire. And second, the last thing is, don't go on the course of fire until you're told to do so. Even though you're all congregate at the back and ready to go, going onto the course of fire before the range officers asked you to show you what's going on, again, could be a procedural. Like I said in the other video, don't do anything until you're told to do so. It's the far simplest way of spending life in practical shooting. Okay, so you're given 3 minutes to wander around, have a look. Now, if you're a new shooter here, you'll have a novice cross on your back. You won't be first shooter at all, ever. Okay, you'll get the chance to watch other people shoot and see what they have done. And at this point in time, your whole world will end. You'll have this wonderful plan set up. The first person will shoot it, and it'll be significantly better than your plan, and you'll go, crap, not doing that again. Okay, stick with your plan if you can. Okay, they always say the stage, the plan goes out the window the moment the beat goes out. Okay, but have an idea what you're going to in terms of course of fire, have a plan to go for it, and then go to ready. Then when you're ready to go to shoot, obviously you'll call forward. We'll cover that in a second. All right. Okay, you shot your stage, you've unloaded, show cleared, you've shown the range officer the gun is clear, breech flag in, muzzle down, you're going back, etc. What happens now? Now for you, go and load your magazines up. Go and check your gun in the safe area if you need to check it, if the optic's not working, etc. Go and do that then. Don't worry about patching. Okay, after you shot, that's your time to sort of collect your thoughts, recharge your magazines, ready to go. Once that's done, the next shooter, then you're forward and patching. The main thing about it is other people are coming forward and patching. Now, you can stick around on the stage and watch the scores, perfectly acceptable. But again, don't go near the targets. Okay, you go within a metre of a target, technically speaking, it's a procedural, because you could be interfering with it. So you can see what your scores are, wandering around, following the range officer if need be, it's perfectly acceptable. But be careful, carrying your gun at the same time, because again, scenario once you're carrying a gun, the scenario you sweeping somebody accidentally is higher than the gun being sat on a table in a rack. Okay, so once you've done your shooting, go back, and then lament on how well you've done or how badly you've done. Okay, speaking of patching, one thing to be care of is that don't patch a target until it's been scored. Sounds obvious, but I've seen people wandering around, putting patch, not realizing it. There'll be a range officer there. Their job is to make sure you shoot safely, and then oversees the scoring. Some competitions with more staff and higher levels will have a scoring officer and an assistant. But the thing is about it is, as a patcher, you follow them around, okay? As it's been scored, then you can patch accordingly, okay? The simple thing is just make sure you cover the hole. Bad example. But in terms of making sure the patch covers the hole entirely, okay? Don't patch unless it's also been cleared to do so. Now, some ranges will allow the other competitors to shout out the scores. Some will not. All depends on the level of the match, etc. The most important thing is don't patch a target until it's been scored by the authorities. Something like the police. Okay, so that's it. That sums up our little two-part video about practical mini rifle and practical shooting generally. We covered a bit on LBP and covered a bit on shotgun as well, but primarily it's designed for mini rifle. But the real thing about this is to Whole idea of both these little videos is to explain what you need to learn to enable to do practical shooting safely. Okay, we still advocate taking a safety course if you can. It's not compulsory here, and if you watch this video and understand what's going on and pay attention to that, you shouldn't have any problems. Obviously, the second part of the series obviously is what to expect to get to a competition. I remember my first competition, had no idea what to expect. Safety course doesn't teach you that. It teaches the process of what to keep safe, but not actually what to expect in a course of fire on a competition. So I personally would have found this very useful, me going in, first competition, no idea what's going on. Hopefully the second part of this series will give you an idea of what to expect when you go there. There'll roughly be differences, different courses of fire and the process, which will part of the fun of it. But the process of what you do in terms of shooting competition are pretty similar. So are the range commands of the process. All right, the crucial thing about all this is to remember the 4 rules of firearm safety. They apply to practical shooting like any kind of shooting. If you follow those 4 rules, you're never going to be in trouble. Making sure you don't do unless you're told to do so, that's fairly crucial. Freeing off the trigger, muzzle point in safe direction. Everything else pretty much is just the complicated stuff you don't need to worry about. Okay, stay safe, hope you enjoy it, I hope to see you out on the circuit. Okay, cheers.